attitudes are increasing when in fact they're decreasing, according to a recent paper. It's just not true. Just as they tell you that the police are engaging in institutional, systemic, structural racism, even though the studies show the opposite, none of these things is true. Yet they are pushed and pushed and pushed by the media and by Democrats.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 7, right before Joe Walsh at 9 on AM 1250. The Answer.
Who feels sorry for the Oakland Raiders? I sure don't, and I don't feel sorry for the Steelers or the NFL. Antonio Brown beat them at their own game. Maybe you hadn't noticed that the NFL has a monopoly, and maybe you've noticed that over the years they've played one city against the other by threatening to move out of town if they weren't given a few $100 million for a stadium. Antonio Brown's an idiot. Everybody knows that. He has the maturity level of a 16-year-old. But he figured out a way to get what he wants. He found a team willing to accept his BS and came out smelling like a rose, kind of like what the Rams did when they left L.A. and went to St. Louis and then went back to L.A. Seems kind of crazy, doesn't it? So does Antonio Brown. Crazy like a fox. When we come back, we're going to talk to a national
Gotta be free.
They blow into town with the wind, rain, and hail. And out-of-town storm chasers going door to door, often posing as a local company offering a quick fix to desperate homeowners. If you've had damage to your roof, windows, siding, or gutters and downspouts, you may be eligible to get them replaced or repaired free of charge. Just be careful who you call. Visit WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com for trained appraisers. With over 50 years in home remodeling, Windows R Us is the area's premier exterior replacement company for roofs, siding, gutters and downspouts, doors, and of course windows. If damage isn't your issue and you just want something new, you'll love their no-pressure approach, no hidden fees, and one of the fastest turnaround times in the industry. A company who will never skip town when it comes to honoring their warranty. Visit WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com. Mention STAG for an additional. Windows R Us, proud sponsor of the Jerk of the Week, heard every Friday on the John Steigerwald Show. WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com.
Community Bank,
City Mission,
Number 1 Cochrane,
Highmark Stadium,
Peters Township Community Center.
Angelo's Restaurant.
What do all these businesses have in common?
Nello Construction.
Design and build with one company.
Nello Construction.
Full service construction from the ground up.
Renovation. Expansion.
Nello Construction, the choice for business.
See the projects.
Begin the journey
at NelloConstruction.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I was finishing undergrad and got credit cards because I couldn't work full-time. So that started the credit card journey for me.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
And then when I got married, we combined our credit card debt and it became impossible to pay off on our own. At that point, I was like, I don't know where to turn. And then I found Trinity.
Trinity will consolidate your accounts into one monthly payment, reduce your interest, and possibly improve your credit score. You'll save thousands.
I initially was scared to call, and immediately I
6976. That's 1-800-990-6976.
You all have helped build MyPillow into the amazing company that it is today, but now Mike Lindell, the inventor and CEO of MyPillow, wants to give back to Stag fans everywhere. You can get deep discounts on all MyPillow products if you go to MyPillow.com right now and click on the new radio listener specials. Now you can get deep discounts on MyPillows, mattress toppers, bed sheets, and so much more. There's even a great body pillow, perfect if you happen to be a side sleeper, regularly $89.99, but with promo code SAG, you can get one today for only $29.99. Remember, all MyPillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. It's MyPillow's way of saying thank you for all your support. Just go to MyPillow.com, click on the new radio listener specials, and get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the body pillow, for only $29.99. Enter promo code STAG or call 800-716-8087 for these great radio specials. That's 800-716-8087 or mypillow.com, promo code STAG.
This is Chris Abernethy of Abernethy and Hagerman. You don't want the government deciding what happens to your estate or how much they will take. At Abernethy and Hagerman, estate administration is the heart and soul of our practice. We have the experience to help not only plan, but administer your estate properly to protect your gets to the ones you love. Decide for yourself. Abernethy and Hagerman, legal help that lasts a lifetime. Visit a-h.law.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
Well, maybe you've heard that Antonio Brown has been in the news a little bit lately. This is one of those sports stories that kind of transcends sports, which is the kind of sports stories we like to do on this show. So what does what Brown pulled off say about the NFL? What does it say about the NFL players, and how should the NFL fans feel about it? I wanted to get a non-Pittsburgh neutral perspective, so I thought about Jerry Brewer, the national sports columnist for the Washington Post. Thought he'd be a good guy to have on, and he joins us now. Jerry, thanks for being here again.
Thanks for having me again.
So the headline of your piece is, it's Antonio Brown's NFL now, and everyone else is just living in it. And you write in the piece that terrible thing to admit, but he's the most relevant player in the NFL right now, most relevant player. And why is it terrible to admit it?
It's relevant for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And he is dominating attention with his, I don't want to say a crazy act, but it's foolishness, and it's his lack of impulse control, and that's unfortunate. We should just be celebrating the start of an NFL season, but he's too good of a player, and now that he has maneuvered his way to New England, they are the longest running dynasty in the NFL. And the combination of those two just overwhelms the news cycle.
He sure stole the show yesterday, didn't he, and last night?
Yes, without even playing, and it just so happened that his team to be, if he ever plays it down this time, the New England Patriots were playing the Steelers, and you just felt his presence all over that game. Unfortunately.
Now, I don't know if I don't think you knew this at the time you wrote your piece, but they've now given him an option. The Patriots have a $20 million option for next year, which is a team option. But if he gets that, which is a big if, I think, but if he gets that, that means he will have made more money playing for the Patriots than he had been promised by the Raiders. So he not only escapes Oakland,
right,
but he would get more money out of it.
Right. And it shows you, I like to call it the competitive negligence of professional sports, and in the NFL in particular. When you have a generational talent, which we none of us will deny that that's what Antonio Brown is, you're willing to make some concessions, bend some things, believe that your way of doing things is he'll conform to it, and you'll be able to get the best out of it. And the Patriots are looking at it like, we got 6 rings, and Tom Brady's 42 years old. Let's try to go for number 7 and number 8.
So were his actions leading up to all this, to his release, I guess it was Saturday he was actually released, so were his actions leading up to that more cunning or foolish? Or maybe a little bit of both, but which do you think it was more? A little bit of both,
but yeah. I actually think it was more cunning than foolish, now that I think about it more and more, just because, you hear about him consulting with social media experts on what he could do to really burn his bridge and expedite his exit from Oakland. And you think about how quickly he recovered and signed with New England. You got to think, at least in Antonio Brown's mind, if not, with the help of the Patriots, to throw out a wild conspiracy theory that there was something in the works.
Yep.
That this was his grand plan after the Raiders kicked him off, which is interesting because I thought the Raiders showed him nothing but patience.
Too much.
Going through, a guy's reporting and he's like, I got frostbite on my feet. I can't practice because I went into a cryotherapy chamber barefoot. And then it's like, I've got this issue with this. He just kept on pushing back and pushing. Really, after the confrontation with Oakland general manager Mike Mayock, that should have been it. They shouldn't have allowed him the opportunity to keep playing games with them. But I think they truly felt he was remorseful when he came in and apologized. But that was just part of his game, I think. And it makes, he made the Raiders look like fools. And he made John Gruden, who's like John Gruden or not, he is one of the better people that I've come across in the NFL, over the last 2 decades of I felt like they did everything they could to create an environment in which they could succeed with him, but he just didn't want it. And it's unfortunate. I think the Steelers enabled him for too long, and the Raiders trying to roll out the red carpet, they wound up kind of inadvertently enabling him. And I think he feels like he's bulletproof right now going to the Patriots, and that's a dangerous thing because there's no telling with Antonio Brown what's going to happen next. And just because you have a good couple of weeks, a good couple of months with him, doesn't mean that you're in the clear. I mean, he could ghost on the Patriots like he did the Steelers in Week 17 last year. And that's the danger of having him. Not that it can work out for a while, but you never feel like things are in a stable place right now with Antonio Brown. And that's the risk that the Patriots are willing to take on.
Yeah, and it's interesting because here in Pittsburgh, I wondered for a long time why they put up with so much, and said that I go back a long time, and I said that Chuck Noll would have either benched him or just released him long before this. But should there be a mechanism in the NFL that they should be able to step into something like that and say, wait a minute, this guy's not going anywhere? I guess legally there's not much they can do, though, is there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would involve almost collusion, and I don't think you can do that. I mean, I do think potentially if you wanted to, they're negotiating the players, very gradually because the season. So you could ask for disciplinary list, like they have the commissioner's list right now for guys who are in extreme trouble. There could be sort of some kind of version of a commissioner's list that you could ask the players for, in which you kind of put some things on hold and maybe irrational and fast and what they do with a guy who is in trouble. But I think that would be incredibly difficult to negotiate. And it's just the thing, John, is just you. So much in professional sports is they try to rewrite the rules of the collective and bargaining agreement to have owners and organizations have protection against themselves and their most foolish impulses, when in reality, you should say, this guy's caused so much trouble in Oakland, we shouldn't sign him in 2 hours. Let's take 2 days. And if we happen to lose out on him, guess what? We're the best team in the NFL already. And we've got like this, the way we play and the way that Bill Belichick coaches, makes it difficult on opponents even when we don't have elite talent. So you can wait and make sure that everything is solid and you feel like it can work. The best thing that could happen for the NFL is if their best team has to learn a hard lesson from Antonio Brown, and I think that would make more teams want to pump the brakes, because the Patriots are ultimately using this as like a market inefficiency that allows them to acquire this player that they otherwise wouldn't be able to get. It's the same thing in a lot of ways that the Cleveland Browns did with Kareem Hunt. And mind you, domestic violence accusations are a lot greater than some player acting a fool. But just this notion of, one team's problem is going to turn into our treasure is a real issue. And you're just waiting for a team to pay the ultimate price for that. And if it happens, do its due diligence, and it's an opportunity
to bend the rules, if not blatantly cheat, to win. I think the Spygate thing was covered up by the league. They did a really good job of that up. So, would you be shocked to find out that maybe Bill stuck his nose into this thing a little bit before Brown was actually released?
I would not be surprised if the Patriots had some level of tampering. And if you're the Raiders, you really need to push the league on doing an honest investigation on that, because, while they're not going to have to pay him $30 million, and you look at it and you say, well, he's been with them since March, and ultimately they didn't have to pay him a dime. They still had to trade an asset to get him. And this was part of their grand plan to kind of fix Derek Carr. Give him a guy who can catch 110 passes and get 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns on a bad season almost. And they're figuring like that can help our quarterback. He's more of a, maybe even like a crutch, but he's so good that if you're force feeding him the ball, he's still going to be efficient anyway. So it's a smart play. They were thinking with Antonio Brown, maybe that expedites this rebuilding that they're doing. So even though they're not on the hook for the money, they still had to give up draft asset, and they also had their plan for this season ruined. I mean, there's a chance they might have been able to eke out 9 wins or something like that, which would have been incredible progress for them after last season. But now they're in disarray, and you just don't know exactly what kind of product they're going to put on the field and exactly what Derek Carter is going to be like without having this elite number one receiver that he had been planning on having all off season.
Yeah.
So if you're the Raiders, there's a lot lost there, and you at least want to get to the bottom of why this guy who caused so much trouble for us goes and is able to sign with the best team in the NFL 2 or 3 hours later,
and may end up with more money than we were offering him. You, Jerry, you spend time in locker rooms, and you get in and out of different NFL locker rooms. What do you think, if not publicly, privately, players are saying among themselves now? Are they rooting for? Is Antonio Brown their new hero because he beat the system?
Just I think there is a part of them that's like, good for him for being able to get what he wants. The NFL is ultimately how so many players call it kind of an unstable blessing because they know that at any minute their careers could be over, they could be cut. These partially guaranteed contracts for a lot of players, they're non-guaranteed deals. So anytime anyone is able to almost be invincible, there's some level of respect for that. But I think most guys are just like what he's willing to do to dictate a situation. That's not for me. And I think they're also kind of tired of him dominating headlines when there were some really cool things that happened in week 1 this season.
A part of me, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but a part of me, Jerry, kind of doesn't feel sorry for the NFL because the NFL is a monopoly. And the NFL has no problem with uprooting a team from St. Louis and moving it to L.A. and then uprooting a team from San Diego and moving it to L.A. because they figured out a way to weasel out of a lease or whatever they had to do to go hand them $1 billion for a stadium. So I have a little trouble feeling too sorry for the owners on this.
Yeah, me too. And then watch this new CBA agreement, and they want to create more and more revenue, and they're trying. So anybody who beats the system is, you have to look at them, and they have defied the odds. I just wish that it didn't happen this way. If it's Russell Wilson putting a demand on the Seahawks of, reenact or by this date, and getting his way, that's one thing. If even Ezekiel Elliott, you need more. If you really want to go to the Super Bowl, you need to give me a new contract, and you come up with $90 million. That's another thing. If it's Jadeveon Clowney telling the Texans, all right, you guys want to franchise tag me in order to trade me, guess what? I'm not going to sign my franchise tag, and I'm going to call my shot and dictate me somewhere I want, which happened to be Seattle. That's another thing. But if it's going to be
blue,
and and even more than that, and really, because the way he acted, for some people who don't think about it in a nuanced way, you're thinking, oh, that's players, that's
Devon, you did a great job for me, as I expected you would. Thanks a lot.
Anytime. My pleasure.
All right, that's Jerry Brewer of the Washington Post, and we'll be right back.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Nearly every state in the union, with the exception of California and Alabama, is joining in an investigation on Attorney General Sean Reyes says Google has a nearly 90% share of Internet searches.
There's nothing wrong with being the dominant player if it's done fairly. That's what our investigation intends to uncover and reveal, whether Google has played by the rules and acted fairly. There's a fine line sometimes between aggressive business practices and illegal ones.
Today's announcement closely followed one from a separate group of states on Friday that disclosed an investigation into Facebook's market dominance. The two probes widen the antitrust scrutiny of big tech companies beyond sweeping federal and congressional investigations and enforcement action by European regulators. On Wall Street, they're up by 38 points, but the Nasdaq dropped 15. This is SRN News.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I was finishing undergrad and got credit cards because I couldn't work full-time. So that started the credit card journey for me.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
And then when I got married, we combined our credit card debt and it became impossible to pay off on our own. At that point, I was like, I don't know where to turn. And then I found Trinity.
Trinity will consolidate your accounts into one easy-to-manage monthly payment, reduce your interest, and possibly improve your credit score. You'll save thousands.
I initially was scared to call, and immediately I felt relief. I mean, in a matter of 3 years, we've already paid down $20,000 in credit card debt, which is huge.
Call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976. That's 1-800-990-6976.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka is just skimming the top of a huge scandal.
Obamagate. It's not Russiagate. It's not Pfizergate. It's not collusion. It is Obamagate. And we only know a fraction of it. But it already is clearly the largest political scandal in our republic's history.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before John Steigerwald at 5 on AM 1250. The Answer.
Do you or your business have financial problems? Are you overwhelmed with debt? Then call me, Attorney Dennis Spire, at 412-471-7675. My legal practice concentrates on bankruptcy law, debtor rights, and tax matters. I have over 30 years' experience as a former United States Department of Justice bankruptcy attorney and lawyer in private practice. I have represented thousands of cases faced with financial problems and lawsuits. Reorganize and get a fresh start. Call 412-47.
Volatility or the possibility of losing money in the next market crash, the time to act is now. Effective financial management involves identifying opportunities. And with a 10-year bull market run, markets around all-time highs, and a highly contested election cycle right around the corner, we have an opportunity now to protect what's important. Don't risk losing a significant portion of your life savings in the next market downturn. Call Hunt & Associates today, 844-366-HUNT. That's 844-366-4868.
Homeowners love how happy we made Susan from Sewickley.
I just have to tell you, this bay window is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's fantastic. It really is beautiful. I mean, beautiful.
Can we install some happiness for you? Right now, get 50% off installation or 18 months, no payments, no interest. Call for your free consultation. We'll come to you. 888-78-PELLA, PellaPittsburgh.com.
This is Jay Hagerman of Abernathy & Hagerman. Upon your passing, you wouldn't want a judge to decide who raises your children or how your estate gets divided. It is important to review your estate planning documents to ensure they protect what matters most. At Abernathy & Hagerman, we will work with you to establish an estate plan that nominates a guardian for your minor children and that your assets are used for your family's benefit. Judge for yourself. For legal help that lasts a lifetime, visit a-h.law.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
Parkway East stacking up outbound. It's heavy Boulevard of the Allies to Edgewood, Swissvale. Inbound pretty typical volume, and looking at the pretty normal rush hour volume on the Parkway West, but no major backups. Outbound Liberty Bridge, that's slowing down a bit, along with outbound 16 Boulevard 7th Avenue off-ramp. That is closed for the next couple of years for construction. That's a look at traffic. I'm Jenny Robinson.
AM 1250, The Answer. Weather.
Partly cloudy skies tonight, heading down to a low of 57. For tomorrow, partly sunny, warmer and more humid with a high of 87. Patchy clouds tomorrow night, a more humid night with a low of 66. And for Wednesday, very warm, humid, some sunshine, but also an afternoon shower or thunderstorm in the area with a high of 89. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Jake Soja.
You're listening to the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
Well, keeping with our sports theme, you heard Jerry Brewer the last segment. I hope you did anyway, talking about Antonio Brown and what it means, and it's kind of a cultural thing to me. It's just how things have changed. A guy like Antonio Brown, no matter how much talent he had many years ago, would not have gotten away with what he got away with. But as I said at the very top of the show, in case you missed it, I just I don't feel sorry for the NFL. I don't feel sorry for the Steelers. I don't feel sorry for the Oakland Raiders. it's funny because the media will become, and I took some nasty shots at Antonio Brown too, but the media, especially the mostly liberal sports media, who have cheerleaded the use of taxpayer dollars to build stadiums, pay for stadiums for all major professional sports teams, they get all upset over someone like Antonio Brown kind of going against the system and not staying with the team that drafted him or the team that whose uniform he's wearing at the time, like Brown did. But they don't seem to get as upset about the Los Angeles Rams moving to St. Louis because the people in St. Louis were bamboozled by their local politicians into building a gigantic several $100 million domed stadium for the Rams. And then when the St. Louis Rams, which used to be the Los Angeles Rams, decided that they wanted a better stadium, they moved back to L.A., the city that was left vacant for how many years by the NFL? I can't remember how many years it was. It was at least 15 years where there was no team in L.A. The Raiders were there for a while after they had moved from Oakland and then moved back to Oakland, all based. So the St. Louis Rams became the Los Angeles Rams again. And while that was happening, the San Diego Chargers, who were at one time the Los Angeles Chargers in the old American Football League, they had moved to San Diego. I'm guessing it's so far back I don't remember, but I'm guessing that was based on it was all about a stadium issue. So the San Diego Chargers are now the Los Angeles. About the Miami Marlins moving to Nashville after the Miami taxpayers were just robbed of money to build a ballpark for that ridiculous organization that has stunk for so many years. It was all done on the sly. It was a dishonest deal with the Marlins not disclosing their finances. So all that stuff goes on. Media, they don't seem to get as upset about that as they do over somebody like Antonio Brown having the nerve to buck the system and not want to go where the monopoly that he works for says he has to go. Now, I understand as a sports guy that you have to have that kind of a system if you want to have a league. You can't have players just go where they want to go. Now, who would play in Pittsburgh or Cleveland if they could play in L.A., New York, Chicago, big cities where they make bigger money? So I understand that. But the NFL and Major League Baseball, the National Hockey League, NBA, they all have monopolies, and they get to do whatever they want. And the players pretty much go. It hasn't even been 40 years in the NFL. It's been free agencies, more like 30 and maybe less. But so it's just kind of interesting to me that the media get much more upset about an individual player off what Antonio Brown did, and then they don't get so upset about teams doing it to hundreds of thousands or millions of people in a city when they steal money from the taxpayer. Over the weekend. Now, Ryan Russel is a former NFL player. I don't know for sure if he's still able to play and wants to play in the NFL, but he came out last week and said that he was bisexual. And, of course, he was celebrated on CNN on Friday, and the anchors said it was wonderful that he came out and what you would expect. But then on Saturday afternoon, actually, Christine Brennan, who is a columnist for the USA Today and an extremely liberal one at that, she was on to talk about Ryan Russel and the news that he had announced that he was bisexual, and that prompted Christine Brennan to say this.
Christine, how big of a deal is this? Anna, I think it's a big deal. Obviously, these are slow steps. Nothing seems to happen with the floodgates opening, and maybe it should, but the National Football League is clearly known as, of course, the top league in the country. And in many ways, it's a reflection on our culture, whether it's Colin. Much is than just Ryan. So I maybe we will see more over time coming out, and I think, again, it's an important first step.
How do you think the NFL will handle this? Because we know Michael Sam tried to blaze this same trail 5 years ago, never played in an NFL regular season game after he came out. Has the climate changed since then?
It sure should have changed, Anna. And if the National Football League wants to be viable and wants to retain its spot in our country well into this century, it has to accept this and it has to encourage this. Because those fans who are maybe in their 60s, 70s, 80s, who maybe are a little bit more reluctant on this topic, well, they're not going to be around in 20 or 30 years. Your future fan base, your future season ticket holders are those 20-year-olds right now, or the high school kids right now, people in their 30s who are much more accepting and understanding of people coming out, people discussing these topics than their parents or their grandparents. And the future of the NFL, frankly, depends upon the NFL getting this right and being welcoming, understanding, and mandating in those locker rooms that if someone does come out, like in this case, that they need to be treated properly and right. They need to be welcomed, and we'll see if he gets signed by another team. He's not playing right now, but that would be a great statement if, in fact, he does.
Right, and certainly a courageous move on his part.
Well, I don't know about it being courageous and all that stuff. That's another issue. But Christine, one thing that she needs to understand is that when people in their, she said 60s, 70s, and 80s are going to be dead in 30 years. That includes me. But I guess I'm going to be dead. But if you go back a couple of generations or a generation and a half back to 40s and 50s, fans, we had a discussion about that. And fans are different. And fans who are 18 and 20 years old right now, I don't know whether they're going to be any more willing to watch games or unwilling to watch games based on whether or not a player is gay or whether or not a player who is gay is accepted. But they aren't going to games the way they used to. And they don't root for teams the way they used to. Young people are more interested, and this has been done. This was a marketing study, pretty extensive one that we talked about here several months ago. Younger people are more likely to be interested in individual players than they are teams. They don't root for teams the way they used to. They're into fantasy football, and the stadium experience involves so much more than just the game. $60-inch television screens in their living room. You had two choices. You watched on a maybe a 30-inch television, more likely a 22 or 24-inch TV, and depending on how old you are and how long you want to go back, you watched it in black and white. So the going to the game was a great experience because it was so much better than anything that you saw on television. First of all, you were seeing it in color, and now the kids they can watch it on or bigger. You can project it on a wall if you want, and watch the game and see a perfectly clear picture. And in the meantime, you have your phone there and you're checking the stats of every other game. I don't have to explain to you what it is, but for anybody to think that the people who are 15, 20 and 30 right now, or in their teens, 20s and 30s right now, that they're going to be the same when they get to be 40, 50, and 60 as fans as the 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old people are now, it's not going to be the same. And whether or not gays are accepted will be way down on the list. as to whether the league is successful. They better figure out a lot of different things, one of which is the attendance at games. There's a story here. I was looking at it earlier. I just saw it a few minutes ago. I didn't pay much attention to it yesterday, but there are pictures of empty stadiums. Even in Cleveland, there were lots of empty seats there at the beginning of the game and during the game. In Carolina, there's a picture here of the stadium with the game going on, and it is really empty, this ballpark, this stadium, and it was all over, and that's happening more and more. And I think people are having a much tougher time selling their tickets or giving them away to NFL games because, as I said, the experience is different. So before anybody gets real hung up on whether or not gay players are accepted / celebrated, that's so far down on the list for what the NFL has to be concerned about in future marketing. And then there's this. There's mascots. Now, I came across this the other day. As long as we're going to stay on this sports theme for today, I guess maybe all the way through. I don't know. I may get to leprosy in Washington if I have time. But mascot madness. Their mascots are in trouble all over. This story is from Campus Reform from last week, I think. I had it here waiting to get a chance to talk about it. In case you hadn't heard, these are some of the nicknames or mascots that are in trouble. Colonials was number one. Now, you know about at George Washington University, they've had an issue with that. They got rid of the mascot. Morris Colonials. D.C. have launched a campaign to replace the colonial mascot with one without so, quote, deep a connection to colonization. You see, George Washington was a colonial. He was living, and he made an effort to not be a colonial. I think it's known as the Revolutionary War is what they had, if I'm not mistaken, so they wouldn't be colonials anymore. And then you have the Pioneers. Problem, Point Park, you better look out. You're the Pioneers, and after failed attempts to replace retired mascot Denver Boone, the University of Denver now has no official mascot. Until recently, it was the Pioneer nickname, was the only remaining official unifying symbol for students. Amid controversy, the school has begun quietly removing the word Pioneer from student ID cards and other official university documents and communication, despite insisting that it still embraces the nickname. So it embraces the nickname, but it doesn't want anybody to really, know about your nickname. And so there's not going to be a I hate mascots, by the way, but I always think I don't like them. I mean, especially at pro games. College games, different story. But so you can't be the Pioneer at Point Park. Just forget about that. You're offending somebody. That's because pioneers were involved in, the Western movement and Indians and all that stuff. We have to pretend that didn't happen. And then there are also we talked about this. We actually had somebody on the show to talk about cow out in Wyoming. In 2018, 24 professors banded together to demand that the University of Wyoming cease the use of its marketing campaign slogan, "The world needs more cowboys," because, as one professor put it, the word cowboy invokes a white, macho, male, able-bodied, heterosexual, U.S.-born person. You can't have that. You can't have a white, macho, male, able-bodied, heterosexual, U.S.-born person running around. What will people think? So that's where we are with sports mascots. That's not even the beginning of where we are, actually, but that's just a little bit of it. We'll be right back. If you're an employer, a business owner, if you have 5 to 100 employees, listen up. The cost of doing business continues to skyrocket, strangling your HR department with more regulations, administrative duties, and liability than ever. I'm John Steigerwald. Your health plan's a big part of that cost. Another year, another 10% rate hike, another $1,000 increase on your deductible, another hospital or doctor you can't go to because they're not in the network. Isn't it time for a change? Well, stop the insanity and call Marley Financial, the most innovative agency in the industry. Put an end to the annual increase. Give your employees a national $14.96, 7/2/1596.
Regenerate me.
Regenerate me.
Please regenerate me.
Why suffer with joint pain? Regenerate Me Pittsburgh invites you to come and hear about a new treatment that offers more potential than stem cell therapy. Now open in Bethel Park, their certified medical professionals Advanced Biological Therapies, also known as ABT. Come enjoy a weekly catered lunch or dinner event and hear how a full recovery is possible without surgery or drugs. Call 412-851-3811. 412-851-3811.
Warning, property protected by electric fence. Sharks sighted in water.
Warnings are truly handy.
Bridge out.
But you may not always get a warning when it comes to threats to your identity or the personal information on your devices. That's why LifeLock Identity Theft Protection includes Norton Security for even more protection. LifeLock uses proprietary technology to help detect identity threats, like your personal info for sale on the dark web. And Norton Security protects up to 5 devices from ransomware and other online threats. Plus, if you have a problem, our agents will work to fix it. Of course, no one can prevent all identity theft or cybercrime or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but having someone looking out for you,
Warning, minefield ahead,
will help keep you out of danger. Join now and get 10% off your first year. Go to lifelock.com and enter promo code TITTLE. That's promo code TITTLE for 10% off. LifeLock with Norton. More detection, more protection.
Once upon a time, many years ago, customers would find your business with this big, thick book full of phone numbers and competitors' phone numbers. It was a heavy, cumbersome, yellowish-looking thing. I believe they called it a phone book. You'd place your ad in the book and hope customers would call.
Hello?
We've come a long way. Now, there's Salem Surround. We help deliver customers right to your front door with targeted digital marketing. Smart businesses use to succeed, and our team at Salem Surround can guide you through all the available options with the expertise to manage all your digital marketing under one roof, so you can spend time taking care of your customers. Get started with a free evaluation of your digital presence and some great ideas to increase your online visibility and revenue. With Salem Surround, there are no limitations on how and where you can reach customers. Total market penetration for increased ROI. Learn more at surroundpittsburgh.com. Surroundpittsburgh.com. Connecting you with new customers.
Hey there.
What's up, bruh?
Hello.
Aloha.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Hola.
Hi.
It takes a lot of voices to create the sound of us. The Y welcomes all of them with open arms. From career readiness to safe spaces, the Y is there, no matter who we are. Now, more than ever, they need your support. Support your local Y today. The Y, for a better us.
Read by members of the Y. This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250 and FM 92.5. The Answer.
Last little note here on the mascots and nicknames. The Washington Post a few years ago did a survey of Native Americans about the name Washington Redskins, and this is after they were running. Most people, liberals, were running around, and liberal sports reporters wouldn't use the name, and it turned out that 90% of the Native who were surveyed said they didn't have a problem with it. So the different methodology still came out with 9 out of 10. So, I bet if they did a survey about pioneers, you wouldn't find too many people who were offended by it. You'd find a lot of people who want to act like they're offended by it because they're virtue signaling. But I had to mention this before I go because, leprosy is not a disease that I really ever thought about catching. I thought that, in the movie Ben-Hur, there's Hur's, I think, sister and mother they contracted leprosy, and they were shunned and put into a cave somewhere, and then they were cured by Jesus, I believe. So leprosy is just, if you really want to get sick, just Google leprosy and then click on images and take a look at some of the pictures. But in L.A., there's a chance that leprosy might actually show up. This is according to Dr. Siegel, the guy you see on Fox. It's only a matter of time before leprosy could take hold among them in an area such as Los Angeles County. He says 75% of those lacking even temporary shelter or adequate hygiene and medical treatment are living out there, and all of these factors make a perfect cauldron for a contagious disease that is transmitted. So, and if you don't get leprosy out there, you might get a break and you only show up with typhus, which is another medieval disease. So that's, what are the Democrats who are running for president going to be asked about what's happening in L.A. and San Francisco under Democrats? I'm waiting for that, and I think it's going to be a long wait. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
The John Steigerwald Show is a production of AM 1250 The Answer and Salem Media Group.
Public employee pension reform now is in full bloom in Pennsylvania, but a Institute for Public Policy